Ossining, New York, January 1st, 1891, 12:03 a.m. A man sits strapped to a wooden chair, electrodes attached to his head and leg. 26 witnesses watch in silence. The warden gives the signal. 1,700 volts surge through the body. The man convulses. Smoke rises from burned flesh. The smell fills the execution chamber. After 17 seconds, they cut the power. The prison doctor checks for a pulse. Still beating. They do it again. Another 17 seconds. 2,000 volts this time. When they finally stop, it takes 8 minutes for the man to die. The witnesses vomit. Some faint. This is the first execution by electric chair at Sing Sing prison. It won't be the last. Over the next 72 years, 614 people will die in this chair, more than any other prison in American history. Welcome to Sing Sing, the prison that pioneered the electric chair, the place where America's most notorious criminals came to die, and the dark story of a reform experiment that became a factory of death. Before we descend into this nightmare, tell me in the comments, do you believe in the death penalty? Is there a humane way to execute someone? Be honest, because what you're about to discover will make you question everything you thought you knew about justice, punishment, and the price we pay for revenge dressed as law. Let's go back. To understand Sing Sing, you need to understand why it exists. The brutal, desperate reason. New York State has a problem. Auburn Prison, the state's main facility, is overcrowded and corrupt. Prisoners are dying from disease. Escapes are common. Violence is constant. The state legislature decides they need a new prison, one built on modern principles, reform through labor, discipline through silence, punishment through isolation. But there's a twist. This prison will be built by prisoners. In 1825, they march 100 inmates from Auburn Prison 30 miles south to a small village called Sing Sing, named after the Sint-Sink Native American tribe. The land is on the Hudson River, perfect for quarrying marble. The plan is simple and cruel. The prisoners will quarry the marble, cut it into blocks, and build their own prison, while living in temporary wooden barracks, under armed guard, working 12 hours a day in all weather, no pay, just the promise that if they work hard, their sentences might be reduced. The warden is Elam Lynds, former military officer, brutal disciplinarian. Lynds believes in absolute obedience through absolute punishment. His philosophy? Prisoners are animals. They respond only to fear. Under Lynds, the Auburn system is enforced with zealous cruelty. Complete silence at all times. Prisoners march in lockstep, eyes forward, hands on the shoulders of the man in front. Any infraction results in flogging, 20, 30, 40 lashes. No trial, no appeal, just the whip. By 1828, Sing Sing Prison is operational, built entirely by convict labor. Stone walls 30 feet high, 800 cells, each 7 feet long, 3 feet 3 inches wide, 6 feet 7 inches high, smaller than a grave. 1 inmate per cell, iron bed, bucket for waste, no window, no light, no heat. Prisoners work during the day in the marble quarries or prison workshops. At night, they're locked in these tombs, alone, in silence, in darkness. The mortality rate is staggering. In the first 5 years, 1 in 4 prisoners dies. Tuberculosis, pneumonia, typhoid, cholera, injuries from the quarries, beatings, suicide. The prison doctor reports that the cells are unfit for human habitation. The state ignores him. Sing Sing is profitable. The marble quarry generates revenue. The prison workshops produce goods sold at market rates. Convict labor is free. The system works if you ignore the dying. Elam Lynds is eventually removed after accusations of excessive cruelty, but his system remains: silence, isolation, labor, punishment. For decades, Sing Sing operates as a machine of suffering. Then, in 1888, everything changes. New York State abolishes hanging, the method of execution for centuries. Why? Because hangings are brutal and unreliable. If the drop is too short, the condemned strangle slowly. If it's too long, the head tears off. Public hangings have become spectacles. Crowds gather, vendors sell food, children watch. The state wants something more scientific, more humane, more modern. Enter Thomas Edison and the electric chair. The war of currents is raging. Edison's direct current versus George Westinghouse's alternating current. Edison wants to prove AC is dangerous. He starts electrocuting animals publicly: dogs, horses, an elephant named Topsy, demonstrating that AC kills. The state takes notice. If electricity can kill animals quickly, maybe it can kill humans humanely.
In 1888, New York passes a law making electrocution the official method of execution. The first electric chair is built and installed at Auburn Prison. On August 6, 1890, William Kemmler becomes the first person legally executed by electrocution. It's a disaster. The first jolt doesn't kill him. He's still breathing, still conscious. They wait for the generator to recharge, then hit him again. His body catches fire. The smell of burning flesh is overwhelming. Witnesses flee the room. It takes 8 minutes for Kemmler to die. One reporter calls it an awful spectacle, far worse than hanging. But the state is committed. They build a second electric chair at Sing Sing, better designed, more powerful, more efficient. On July 7, 1891, 4 men are executed in a single day. The Sing Sing electric chair is operational, and it's hungry. The chair sits in the death house, a separate building within Sing Sing. Inmates condemned to death are moved here. 20 cells, each 8 by 6 feet, slightly larger than the regular cells, but still tombs. Condemned prisoners can see and hear each other, but they can't touch, can't comfort. They wait, days, weeks, months, years sometimes, waiting for their date with Old Sparky. That's what they call the chair, Old Sparky. A nickname that pretends familiarity, that makes horror mundane. The execution protocol is precise. The night before, the condemned is offered a special last meal, anything they want within reason. Some eat, most don't. At 11 p.m., the warden arrives, reads the death warrant, asks if the condemned has any last words. At 11:30 p.m., the prisoner is walked to the execution chamber. Witnesses are already seated. 26 people, prison officials, law enforcement, journalists, family of the victim if they choose, and sometimes family of the condemned. The condemned is strapped into the chair, leather restraints on wrists, ankles, chest, forehead. Cannot move, cannot struggle. An electrode cap is placed on the head, soaked in salt water to conduct electricity better. A second electrode is attached to the right leg. A leather mask covers the face, so witnesses don't see the eyes. The warden asks again for last words. Some pray, some proclaim innocence, some curse, some say nothing. The warden signals the executioner. The executioner is anonymous, hidden behind a partition. He throws the switch. 2,000 volts at 7 to 12 amps surge through the body for 17 seconds. The body convulses, strains against the restraints. Sometimes the restraints fail. Arms break free. The power is cut. The doctor checks for vital signs. If the heart is still beating, they do it again and again until the heart stops. The average execution takes 3 cycles, 2 to 3 minutes total, but some take longer. In 1903, Frederick Van Wormer takes 4 cycles, 9 minutes. His skin is burned black. In 1928, Ruth Snyder, the first woman executed at Sing Sing, takes 3 cycles. Smoke rises from her head. A photographer smuggles a camera strapped to his ankle, captures the moment. The photo runs on the front page of the New York Daily News. Caption: dead. Public outcry. But the executions continue. Between 1891 and 1963, 614 people are executed at Sing Sing, more than any other prison in American history. Men, women, young, old, black, white, rich, poor. The chair doesn't discriminate. Some famous executions. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, 1953, convicted of espionage, passing atomic secrets to the Soviet Union. Julius dies after the first cycle. Ethel takes 5. Witnesses say smoke poured from her head, that her body burned. The execution chamber had to be aired out before witnesses could leave. Controversy still rages. Were they guilty? Was the evidence fabricated? Should they have died? Albert Fish, 1936, serial killer, child murderer, cannibal, confessed to molesting over 400 children, murdered at least 5, maybe more. At his execution, he thanks the warden, says he's looking forward to the chair, that electrocution will be the supreme thrill of my life. After the first jolt, the chair short-circuits. The electrodes in his body, dozens of needles he'd inserted into his pelvis over years for sexual gratification, interfere with the current. They remove the electrodes and shock him again. He dies smiling. The Lonely Hearts Killers, Martha Beck and Raymond Fernandez, 1951. Con artists who seduced and murdered at least 20 women, executed back to back. Martha goes first, weighs over 200 pounds, barely fits in the chair. It takes multiple cycles. Raymond watches from his cell, hears her die, then it's his turn.
Drop a comment. How do you feel about these executions? Were they justice? Were they vengeance? Is there a difference? Because at Sing Sing, the line between law and murder is drawn in blood. But here's the thing. Not everyone executed at Sing Sing was guilty. We know this now, because some were exonerated after they were dead. George Stinney Jr., 14 years old, black, accused of murdering 2 white girls in South Carolina in 1944, executed at Sing Sing. No, wait, wrong. Stinney was executed in South Carolina, but Sing Sing had its own wrongful executions. Jesse Joseph, 1942, black man, convicted of murdering a white woman in Harlem. Evidence was circumstantial, witnesses recanted, appeals denied, executed. Decades later, evidence emerges that Jesse was innocent, that the real killer confessed on his deathbed. Too late. Charles Sperna, 1939, convicted of murder during a robbery, maintained innocence until the end. Years later, another man confesses. Police confirm Sperna was innocent. Too late. How many others? How many people strapped into Old Sparky were innocent? How many died for crimes they didn't commit? We'll never know. Because once you execute someone, you can't take it back. You can't undo death. The chair is permanent. Let me ask you something. Drop it in the comments because I really want to know. If you were wrongly convicted and sentenced to death, would you want your execution quick or delayed as long as possible, hoping for exoneration? There's no good answer. But think about it. Because at Sing Sing, hope was the cruelest torture. The death house wasn't just about execution. It was about waiting. Condemned prisoners spent months, sometimes years in those cells, watching others walk past them to the chair, hearing the generator fire up, smelling the burned flesh afterward, knowing their turn was coming. The psychological torture was calculated, deliberate. The cells faced each other. You could see other condemned men, talk to them, form bonds, then watch them die, one by one, until you were alone, until it was your turn. Some men went insane waiting, talking to walls, screaming, catatonic. They were executed anyway, strapped into the chair unconscious, shocked until dead. Some men found religion, spent their last days praying, writing letters, seeking forgiveness. Some maintained innocence until the end, shouting it as they were strapped in, shouting it until the current stopped their voice. The guards who worked the death house didn't last long. High turnover, alcoholism, depression, suicide.
One guard, Robert Elliott, served as executioner for 387 executions, more than any other executioner in history. He wrote a memoir, described the toll it took, the nightmares, the guilt, the way his hands shook. He said he believed in the death penalty, that he was doing his duty, but you could read between the lines. He was broken. He died of a heart attack in 1939. At his bedside, he whispered, "I've seen too much death." But Sing Sing wasn't just about death. There was another side, a reform movement, a strange, contradictory attempt to rehabilitate while executing. In 1914, Thomas Mott Osborne became warden, a reformer. He believed prisoners were human beings capable of change. He introduced unprecedented programs, baseball teams, a prisoner-run newspaper called the Sing Sing Bulletin, education classes, vocational training, a mutual welfare league run by prisoners themselves. Osborne even spent a week as an inmate, voluntarily, to understand what prisoners experienced. He wrote about it, described the horror of the cells, the brutality of the guards, the despair. He tried to change things, and for a few years he succeeded. Sing Sing became a model prison, rehabilitation instead of just punishment, hope instead of despair. But Osborne was forced out in 1916. Political enemies, accused of being too soft on criminals. The reform movement collapsed. Sing Sing returned to its old ways. Silence, labor, punishment, death. The contradiction at the heart of Sing Sing remained. How do you rehabilitate men while executing them? How do you offer hope while operating a death machine? The answer? You don't. The two philosophies war with each other, and death always wins. The last execution at Sing Sing. Eddie Lee Mays. Convicted of murder. Executed August 15, 1963. He's number 614. After Mays, New York doesn't execute anyone for 4 years, not officially. The death penalty is under challenge. Courts are questioning whether electrocution is cruel and unusual punishment. In 1972, the Supreme Court rules in Furman v. Georgia. The death penalty as currently administered is unconstitutional. All death sentences are commuted. Death rows empty across America. For 4 years, no executions. Then states rewrite their laws, make them more fair, more constitutional. In 1976, the Supreme Court rules in Gregg v. Georgia. Death penalty is constitutional if properly administered. Executions resume. But not at Sing Sing. New York's death penalty remains suspended. Even when it's briefly reinstated in 1995, no one is executed. The electric chair at Sing Sing sits unused. Old Sparky is silent. Today, Sing Sing still operates, but it's changed. No more executions, no more death house. The electric chair is in a museum now, behind glass, a relic. The prison focuses on rehabilitation, education programs, vocational training. The Hudson Link program offers college degrees. Prisoners graduate, get jobs, reintegrate. Some of Sing Sing's former inmates have become lawyers, teachers, advocates for criminal justice reform. The prison that was once America's death factory is now trying to give life, trying to prove that people can change, that punishment doesn't have to mean destruction. But the ghosts remain. Walk through Sing Sing and you feel them. 614 people died there, strapped to a chair, electrocuted. Some guilty, some innocent, all human. The death house still stands, empty now, but you can see the cells, the execution chamber. The chair is gone, moved to a museum, but the space remains, and the weight of what happened there presses down like a physical thing. Former guards report nightmares decades after retiring. Visitors report strange sensations, cold spots, voices, the overwhelming feeling of being watched. Is it real? Or is it guilt? The accumulated weight of 614 deaths. The knowledge that we did this, that we strapped human beings into chairs and burned them from the inside out, that we called it justice. Here's the final question, the one that matters. Was Sing Sing's electric chair justice. These people were convicted by juries, sentenced by judges, given appeals. The system worked, right? But the system executed innocent people. We know that now. We know that race played a role, that poor defendants got worse lawyers, that evidence was sometimes fabricated, that confessions were coerced, that juries were biased. The system didn't work. It killed the guilty and the innocent alike, and called it justice. Today, America still has the death penalty. 27 states, the federal government, the military. Methods vary. Lethal injection mostly. Some states keep the electric chair as an option. Others use gas chambers, firing squads, hanging. We keep finding new ways to kill, new ways to make it seem humane, clinical. But death is death, and revenge dressed as law is still revenge. Since 1973, 191 people on death row have been exonerated, proven innocent, released. 191 people who would have been executed if their appeals had run out, if DNA evidence hadn't emerged, if someone hadn't fought for them. How many others were executed before exoneration? How many Eddie Lee Mazes died innocent? We'll never know, because you can't exonerate a corpse. So tell me, comment below, share your thoughts. Should America keep the death penalty? Is there a humane way to execute someone? Or is state-sanctioned killing always wrong, no matter who we do it to? I want to hear from you, especially if you've been affected by the criminal justice system, if you've served time, if you've lost family to violence, if you've worked in corrections. Your perspective matters. This isn't ancient history. This is happening right now in prisons across America. Men and women on death row, waiting, hoping for appeals, hoping for exoneration, hoping for mercy. And we allow it. We fund it. We vote for politicians who campaign on being tough on crime. Because it's easier to kill than to question why we kill. Sing Sing's electric chair is in a museum now, a tourist attraction. People look at it, take photos, read the plaque, walk away, and forget. But the 614 people who died there don't get to forget. Their families carry that trauma. Their communities bear those scars. And we're still creating new victims, right now, today, in the name of justice, in the name of safety, in the name of closure. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for not looking away. Thank you for confronting the uncomfortable truth. Thank you for thinking about the price we pay for revenge. Subscribe if you want more deep investigations into the dark corners of history, the places we'd rather forget, the stories that make us uncomfortable. Because comfort doesn't change anything. Awareness does. Action does. Refusing to let these horrors continue in the shadows, that's what changes things. See you in the next investigation. And remember, every execution chamber has its ghosts. Every justice system has blood on its hands. Every death penalty is irreversible. The only question is whether we have the courage to stop.